This is CBC Here and Now.
"1940 was the last time the Royal St. John's Regatta was canceled, and 80 years later, organizers will have to do it again.
The town of Grand Falls, Windsor took aggressive measures at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, shutting down trails and green spaces. Well, weeks later, things are starting to change.
Good evening, I'm Carolyn Stokes. We start tonight with a bombshell lawsuit. Independent MHA Eddie Joyce is suing 4 people, including Premier Dwight Ball, for defamation. It's connected to the harassment complaint made against Joyce by former cabinet colleague Sherry Gambin-Walsh in 2018, the complaint that saw him ousted from caucus. Joyce is suing for more than $400,000.
But I feel confident that when I get this whole story out, I feel confident that Eddie Joyce will be vindicated.
Nearly 2 years later, Eddie Joyce is still trying to get his story out, but this time he's taking it to court. Joyce has filed a defamation suit at the Supreme Court in Corner Brook that makes a series of allegations against the Premier, Sherry Gambin-Walsh, House Speaker Perry Trimper, and Bruce Chalk. He's the legislative ethics watchdog who investigated the harassment complaint against Joyce. Joyce claims that actions those 4 people took during the harassment investigation damaged his reputation. He alleges that at the time, Premier Dwight Ball told him the harassment complaint was all bull, and that Ball planned to fire Gambin-Walsh from cabinet. In his statement of claim, Joyce says 2 Liberal MHAs, Mark Brown and Caroline Haley, told him about text messages from Gambin-Walsh that concerned confidential cabinet deliberations. Joyce also says those texts contained information that would prove his innocence. He alleges that Ball saw those texts and told 2 unnamed people that he had enough information to clear Eddie and that he will be fine. The commissioner cleared Joyce of bullying and harassment, but found that he broke the code of conduct for elected officials when he lobbied to have a friend hired for a government job. In a section of the lawsuit titled Malicious Prosecution, Joyce alleges that there was no factual basis for that decision. None of those claims have been tested in court. Meanwhile, Sherry Gambin-Walsh is no longer in cabinet. She was removed last month after she came under police investigation over more recent allegations that she leaked cabinet secrets. Well, it's been celebrated for more than 200 years, but this summer, the Royal St. John's Regatta is officially canceled because of COVID-19. No races, no food, no games of chance, but what about the holiday? Here Now's Meg Roberts reports.
Name after name is carved into the stone down here at the Winner's Circle at Kitty Vitty Lake until you get to 1940. There are no winners named because the Royal St. John's Regatta was canceled due to World War II. And it'll be the same for 2020. The Regatta Committee has canceled the historic event due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
It's devastating. You know, I never thought my first year as president I'd actually be announcing the cancellation. I chuckle because, never foresaw this, ever.
Brad Powers says it would also be tough to hold the races even without spectators. Rowers can't get out on the pond to start to practice. He says he's thinking about the charities and nonprofits who benefit every year.
For many of them, it's their biggest revenue generator for the year, similar to us. And we really empathize with how it's going to affect the community. But again, in the interest of public safety and certainly not jeopardizing the health and well-being of our participants, the decision that we communicated today was an essential decision to make.
And of course, there is the question about what to do with the holiday. Normally, the day off is up to a group of unelected officials who decide if the city gets shut down based on the weather. Power is hoping the holiday stays on the same date, but City of St. John's Mayor Danny Breen says council is considering something else.
Council on Monday night will consider whether to move the holiday or declare the holiday on the Monday, on a Monday instead, to create a long weekend. So for this year only.
Although there will be no race day down at the lake, the president of the Regatta committee hopes rowers will still get the opportunity this summer to practice on the water. Meg Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
We have new cases of COVID-19 to tell you about tonight. It's the first time in almost a week. 2 new positive cases announced today. So how will this affect plans to ease restrictions on Monday? Let's bring in here and now's Peter Cowan. So Peter, let's start with the new cases. What can you tell us about them?
Well, Carolyn, the 2 new cases, one of them is still under investigation, so they don't know exactly how this person caught COVID-19 yet, but they don't believe it's connected to the 99 healthcare workers who have had to isolate after they were possibly exposed from a patient. The other person is someone who was working out in Alberta at the Curl Lake camp where there's been an outbreak, traveled back here, got tested, and has been isolating. And we've seen the concern about outbreaks at camps in Alberta, and in fact today they are expanding the measures that are in place. So for example, at the Horizon camp where there has been an outbreak as well, they're saying anyone who's been traveling back and forth needs to call 811 and they need to get tested.
There is several hundred people for sure from outside of Alberta who work at this camp. Newfoundlanders are almost certainly to be amongst those, and so we want to make sure, once again, because we do need to control the importation of cases, we want to make sure that we're capturing those people as quickly as possible, and if any of them are positive, to find them and do their contact tracing.
Now, Dr. Fitzgerald says it is expected that we will see new cases, especially as we start easing the restrictions like the double bubble, which is already into effect. And so the plans are still to go ahead with the easing, going down to alert level 4 on Monday, which will allow some businesses to reopen, some outdoor activities like golf to resume, and some surgeries to resume at hospitals. Carolyn?
Thanks so much, Peter. That's Here and Now's Peter Cowan reporting live. The Prime Minister announced a new multi-billion-dollar deal with the provinces today to top up the wages of critical workers in this pandemic.
We're relying on these workers now more than ever, and we will be there to support them. It will be up to each province and territory to determine who exactly qualifies for this wage increase, but the bottom line is this. If you're risking your health to keep this country moving and you're making minimum wage, you deserve a raise.
The Prime Minister said details of the $4 billion pay raise agreement are still being finalized. But in the months and years to come, Canada will need to reflect on how we treat the low-wage frontline workers who keep our society running. So how will that funding work for people in this province? The Premier says they're still trying to define the criteria for an essential worker because it includes many types of jobs, not just healthcare workers.
That would include people that have been working in, say, as an example, grocery stores. This would include people that provide cleaning services. And there's a wide range of individuals within the population. And there's quite a few people within the province right now that would be considered to be essential workers under this program. But it's a very general, broad range of essential workers that have been currently responding to support our citizens during this pandemic.
Parks in St. John's are set to reopen on Monday for walk-through traffic only, but parks in central Newfoundland are already starting to reopen. Mayors are warning, though, that if people don't stay vigilant, all the progress could be undone. Here Now's Garrett Berry reports.
Shut down for weeks, part of strict lockdown measures. But tomorrow, a little bit of normal.
With the relaxing of the provincial guidelines upcoming, we felt it's time for us to open our parks and trails particularly so that people can get out and enjoy them.
In the COVID-19 Balancing Act, he says the town just couldn't keep the closure going as the numbers improve.
People need to keep their mental health and their physical health well, and our parks and green spaces, our trails, are such an important mechanism for people to get out.
While the parks and walking trails will start to open tomorrow, the mayor of Grand Falls Windsor is telling his residents that this is no time to relax the commitment to physical distancing.
This is a day-by-day thing, so if we see that that decision needs to be rescinded for some reason, we would not hesitate to do it if it means public health.
This council is a bit ahead, reopening parks before St. John's, but they're not first. In Bishop's Falls, these new signs on these reopened boardwalks.
We're confident that people will respect the requirements that we're putting in place.
So far, so good.
Nothing's been reported as up to this point, and I must say thank you to our residents here in Bishop's Falls, because we haven't had any cases that's been brought to my attention.
In this town, a phased approach. Boardwalk first, and hopefully parked soon, too.
I don't think we're that ahead of the game, but in following, again, what the province is doing, seeing that they're kind of lightening the trend, we thought we would do the same, too, as well, to offer that to our residents and judge it accordingly as things move forward.
Garrett Berry, CBC News, Grand Falls, Windsor.
And tennis lovers have been wondering why outdoor courts won't open on Monday, along with the golf courses. Today, the Chief Medical Officer of Health explained why she feels tennis is more risky than golf right now.
If we're comparing them to golf, it's a little bit different. In golf, there is, you bring your own clubs, you use your own equipment, you can stay separated. With tennis, there is some sharing of equipment and certainly the ball. So there is a little bit more concern with regard to possible transmission.
The RCMP is warning drivers that just because there's less traffic on the highways, motorists don't have a green light to speed. Last week, it handed out dozens of tickets for speeding, including one driver going 163 kilometers per hour. The RCMP says when the weather warms, some drivers tend to develop a lead foot. On May 1st, the police laid 62 charges. 58 of those were for speeding, and 4 of those drivers were charged with excessive speeding. That means the drivers hit at least 51 kilometers over the posted speed limit of 100 kilometers per hour.
I think comparatively, for the amount of traffic volume that's on the road, for us to continue to see so many incidents of speeding and excessive speeding, it's particularly dangerous. And I think that part of that is people have the increased confidence in doing those speeds, partly because there's less traffic on the road, and also because of the perception that maybe they think the police won't be on the road either. But that's certainly not the case.
Coronavirus shutdowns across the country have forced a well-known Canadian shoe company to take drastic action. Montreal's Aldo shoe empire has filed for bankruptcy protection in Canada and the U.S. The fashion footwear and accessories store has been ubiquitous in shopping districts and malls across this country for decades. Before the coronavirus shut down, it operated more than 3,000 shops in more than 100 countries under the Aldo, Globo, and Call It Spring brands. A few storefronts will reopen and online sales will continue while the company restructures.
It was a good day to do some gardening in the greenhouse today for parts of the island. We're in for some snow though as we head through the night tonight for some areas. I'll have all those details coming up.
Welcome back to Here and Now. Well, typically this time of year, the tourism season in Newfoundland and Labrador is in full swing, but with travel bans and physical distancing, iceberg and whale tour boats remain dockside. But skipper Bob Bartlett can still give us a virtual tour around Trinity and Bonavista Bay. Have a look.
Hey everyone, Skipper Bob. First mate Bonnie there. This is a much larger piece of ice with 2 pinnacles. So this is the first time we've been able to get out to it. This is up in a spot called Regatta. We just got the day of days here. It's just absolutely beautiful. I'll have to drink that fits in tonight. This iceberg, or the snow, actually fell somewhere between 15 and 30,000 years ago. It cracked off the western coast of Greenland and floated down here. It takes up to 2 to 3 years for an iceberg to arrive here. And just to give you some idea, 9/10 below, 1/10 above. Same as you see in your drink. Of course, with COVID-19 being a formidable factor in the tourism season this year, and certainly an unforeseen circumstance, it has affected tourism and will affect it greatly for the entire season. So what we're going to recover out of this tour season, I suspect, is going to be from local tourism, Atlantic province tourism. We've all got to pull together and everybody can have the best time right here in the Atlantic provinces and support each other. I can't emphasize that enough. People from all around the world come here because of what we have and what we have in our own backyard we need to utilize and take advantage of and really appreciate. So get out there, enjoy. We just wrote up a blog called Being a Tourist in Your Own Province. So have a look at that and see some of the suggestions we made there.
Just gorgeous. You can almost smell the fresh air out there. And if you enjoyed that, there is more tonight. We'll be sharing a longer version of that tour on our CBCNL YouTube and Facebook pages.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Bonus deadline is midnight, Friday, May 15th. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Well, I've just been hanging out in my greenhouse all day today. You guys have all been asking about it, so I figured it'd be a great day to sit here. I got my mint going, got all of my stuff going, which is super exciting, and it was a really great day to get that done, especially if you were out here in the eastern portions of the island. Really anywhere we saw plenty of sunshine today. Let's take a look at those temperatures. Not quite warm as I expected for eastern areas of the Avalon, but we did see a high near 8 degrees in St. John's, 9 in Terra Nova. That was a hot spot, but temperatures generally sitting in the single digits today, hovering around the 0 degree mark for Lab City. So we do have that area of low pressure that is now moved over Labrador, so we're seeing some flurries, or the snow rather, up there. That increasing cloud, as we were talking about today for the island, and we're already starting to see that precipitation move in along the south coast, and that's generally the story as we head through the night tonight. You can see some of that white already in there, so that means snow tonight, and we are going to see the potential for snow to move in overnight tonight. Are going to see that snow move in overnight tonight right across the island, anywhere really west of the Avalon, because the Avalon should stay as showers tonight. And as far as those accumulations go, still looking at anywhere from 5 to as much as 15 centimeters of snow, and we'll probably see some rain mixed in with that as well. But the Avalon will stay mainly rain tonight. So tomorrow afternoon, rather tomorrow morning, see some lingering flurries, particularly along the northeast, certainly for the northern peninsula, and then that shower or flurry activity will move towards Labrador, and maybe some lingering showers again for the first half of the day for the northeast, and then we should actually see some clearing skies. The winds will pick up though a little bit through the afternoon. You can see that shower and or flurry activity up through central and coastal Labrador through the day, because temperatures will still be sitting around 2 or 3 degrees. Similar temperatures across the island, so anywhere from 5 to as much as 8 degrees, but again, winds anywhere from 30 to as much as 50 kilometers per hour, with some flurries possible for St. Anthony as well, in -4. There's that rain. This will take us through to tomorrow morning. So we're looking at about 10 to 20 millimeters for eastern areas, or rather the Avalon. And then, you know, as we start to see some rain mix in as well, we could pick up a couple of millimeters for areas along the northeast. Now into Saturday rather, we're still going to see the potential for some showers in the morning, and then we should actually see some peaks of sun through the day. Temperatures will recover slightly, anywhere from 9 to flirting with the double digits in Corner Brook. So just before we leave you tonight, wanted to share you this photo with you. A Blue Jay stopped by for breakfast in St. John's. Thank you so much to Joan Berry for sending that in. And if you have any weather photos to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
An update today on how members of the Canadian Armed Forces are helping out in long-term care facilities. The Minister of Defence says about 265 military personnel are now working at 5 facilities in Ontario, and more than 1,300 members will be working at 25 facilities in Quebec by late this month. Almost all the Army's medical personnel are fighting COVID-19.
Canadian Armed Forces members have moved very quickly, figured out the training, done something that they have never done before, because that's exactly what was needed for our elderly. And I'm very proud of that work. And of course, all of us would like to have moved faster on this.
Well, this is a time of worry and concern, but increasingly we're seeing it's also a time of innovation.
Different lives, so it's fun to get out there again and discover new restaurants.
This is how one restaurant in the Netherlands is transforming itself in light of the pandemic. How about a romantic candlelit dinner for two in a mini greenhouse? The owners prefer to call them glass cabins and say it's a novel way of ensuring physical distancing. As you can see, servers are protected by face shields. The concept is being tested ahead of Dutch restaurants officially reopening their patios to customers on June 1st. Looks like greenhouse dining is definitely one way to grow the economy. Sorry. Well, a folk dance recital recently got the Lego movie treatment. Ottawa's Poloni dance group had to cancel their annual spring concert when the pandemic struck. The troupe's instructor was inspired by his own children's efforts to make stop-motion movies, so he decided to reimagine one of the best-known Polish dances in Lego. Clearly a spirited burst of creativity during the lockdown. Well, it's prom season, and some students are no doubt disappointed that they won't be celebrating with fancy graduation parties right now, but students can still get all dressed up even if there's no place to go. Beautiful. Students from Indian River High School in Springdale found a creative way to show off the glamorous gowns they would have worn to graduation this year. Instead of letting the dresses collect dust, they are sharing their sparkle online. Well, thanks so much for sharing some time with us this evening. Hope you can join us again tomorrow. Coming up next is CBC News from Nova Scotia. Good night.